Matthew chapter 5, verse 21. You have heard that it was said to people long ago, do not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to his brother Raka, is answerable to the Sanhedrin, but anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fires of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still with him on the way, or he may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. I tell you the truth, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. So, one of the things about the Sermon on the Mount is it makes us keenly aware of the fact that Jesus doesn't lower the standard, he actually takes it higher to a spiritual plane. Whereas the old law said, do not kill. Jesus is saying, if you just hate somebody, that's the same as murder. And so it's not that he's saying don't have human emotions. We're all going to be angry at somebody. We're all going to even have hatred towards certain individuals. But what he expects us to do with that is to overcome it, and to pray about it, to forgive that person, to be a peacemaker, to reconcile. Don't take the attitude that, well, you did this to me, so I'm going to get even with you by doing so-and-so. Or I'm going to just not speak to you for the rest of my life, or I'm not going to make any attempt to reconcile this thing. He even says, if your brother and you are fighting, that it's more important for you to go and work things out with your brother than it is to come and give gifts at the altar. And he says, if somebody is threatening to sue you, go ahead and pay them whatever you owe them, rather than go to court. So he's saying to take the non-combative role. That doesn't mean that we're supposed to be a bunch of, let people take advantage of us or abuse us in some way. But it does mean that we're to take the high road, to make the effort to get along, to forgive people even when we can't do anything else with what's happened. And he constantly talks about forgiveness. Forgiveness is very important in the Christian walk. If you carry hatred in your heart, you can't experience the Spirit of Christ. And so a lot of it is about overcoming those hatreds and those resentments that we have. A lot of our resentments that we deal with in recovery, what we find is we have to get rid of our resentments so that they won't hinder our recovery. And it's all of that wisdom comes from the recognition of the fact that if we carry anger and bitterness and hatred in our heart, then who are we hurting? We're hurting ourselves. It's like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die. We're hurting ourselves when we do that, and so we have to. So it's in our own best interest to get rid of that kind of stuff and not let it weigh us down. He talks about adultery, and he says, you have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body to be thrown into hell. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Now, I don't think he's saying go and pull your eye out or cut your arm off or your hand off, but I think what he's speaking metaphorically, which he's saying that go to the extreme to overcome the things that you lust for. And we lust for a lot of things, not only sexually, but we lust for wealth, we lust for narcotics, we lust for alcohol, all kinds of things, power, prestige, popularity, all these things, and those lusts can become so overpowering that before we know it, we're worshiping the object that we lust after more than we worship the God that created us. And we don't think of it as worship. We think of it as something else. But the reality is our relationship with that object is just as powerful as if we were worshiping. I don't think he's saying that you're not going to notice beautiful women. But I do think what he's saying is that if you develop these sexual fantasies and that sort of thing, that you are in a way, in a certain sense, you're not any more innocent than the guy that actually goes out and has a sexual relationship with somebody else. So we can be adulterous in our own mind. And I can tell you that, I mean, this is something I struggle with even today. I mean, being human and being of flesh, you still struggle with the reality of your flesh, and it is hard. This is what makes the Christian life so hard, is struggling with these particular things and trying to overcome that hatred, trying to overcome that lust. But those two things can destroy a man's soul more than anything else. And if we don't recognize that and we don't deal with it, then we become poisoned by it, and then things become worse. We begin to engage. We begin to engage in vengeance. We begin to commit acts of violence. We begin to commit adultery in certain ways that are destructive. We become addicted to a substance. We are more concerned with being powerful than we are concerned with being humble before God. And those things are self-destructive. It doesn't get easier. It says, it has been said that anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for marital unfaithfulness causes her to become an adulteress. And anyone who marries the divorced woman commits adultery. So that he takes a very hard view on divorce. And in this day and age, that's a difficult thing to deal with. The thing with divorce is it's not about, it's about the abandonment of another human being and what happens in their life when you abandon them. In their world, when you abandon somebody, when you abandon a woman, she had no means of supporting herself, and she was literally going to starve to death if she didn't go out and find another man. So divorce was a very harsh thing, and that's why even in our country today you have alimony laws, because what they're recognizing is that when a man takes a woman, that he has a financial obligation to care for her. But it works both ways. If I've seen more people crushed and devastated because their spouse or their girlfriend left them than just about anything else. That is a very hard thing for us to deal with. And it's the abandonment issue again. It's not about, it's about what we do to other people when we hurt them. So I'm going to stop right there and open it up for questions, because those are pretty big issues, and y'all may have